rage. It looks good in movies.
It does.
It's kind of cool. I love it when a main character is just had it up to here.
Yeah.
And he just goes crazy.
Yep. Goes full beast mode.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of cool. Like we've watched, a good example, John Wick. His dog dies.
Yeah. They kill his dog.
And he murders an entire Russian mob.
Yep. And they all know it. I love the part where they're just like, we killed his dog.
Crap.
Oh, no. You know.
Yeah, they know. They know it's going to happen.
They know it's going to happen.
When he's in rage mode,
Yep.
he's unstoppable.
Yeah.
And there's something cool about that. You're like, yeah, nobody messes with him. And there's part of you that's like, oh, yeah, I wish nobody messed with me.
I know.
That'd be kind
I'm
of cool.
like that. I am John Wick.
Yeah, for real. The issue is, though, it's not a movie. Rage in real life has some dark sides to it.
Yeah,
it has some high prices, high costs. And The Rising of the Shield Hero, the show that we've been talking about the past couple weeks, actually brings this to the surface. It brings both the abilities that it gives and the price that you have to pay. So we're going to be talking about that today on the show.
This is the Thriving Man Podcast with David and Reese Maxwell. These weekly shows are designed to help you remove the confusion from your life and make real progress with your growth. No matter where you are or where you're going, we're here to help you live a life you can be proud of. So welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast.
Welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast, where we help you break out of survival mode and start living a life that you can be proud of. I'm Reese.
And I'm David.
And he's my dad. And our goal here is to help you guys, specifically this month, through anime. We get to learn manly lessons from anime.
Anime month.
Well, yeah, copyright pending.
That's right, copyright pending.
Anime month. It's going to be awesome. Well, really, it's been awesome. The
we've
first
loved
2
it.
sessions have been a blast.
My favorite part's the research.
For real.
Having to rewatch the show. It's like, well, I have to do this. It's research.
Yeah. It gives you you can justify it.
Yep.
So anyway, interestingly enough, one of the unique things about the show Rising of the Shield Hero is that you get to see this whole story unfold through Naofumi's eyes.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you're kind of with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love rewatching the show makes me really feel like what we've been talking about last couple of weeks. Just the bitterness, the anger, the girl who betrays him. You really, she's a drawn character, but I hate her.
Yeah.
I hate her. And later in the first season when she gets it, when she gets judgment, you're just like, yeah. And so it just, because you feel that way, because you're seeing it through his eyes, what it's like for him to be betrayed so hard in his life.
Oh, yeah. You're like, as you're watching it, you see kind of his bitterness that he's struggling with, and you're like, I get it.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I'm kind of with it.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Tell that stupid spear hero how it is. Just tear him limb from limb.
Yep.
That would be great. Thank you. Like you're agreeing with his anger.
Yeah. Well, one of the funny parts of the show, there's a character, Philo. Thank you. I knew it was someone.
We got that.
But she's a giant bird who turns into a little girl, but she kicks the spear hero in the nuts so many times. And you're just like, yeah, kick him, because he's just an idiot.
Yeah, he's dumb. And he's dumb and malicious, but accidentally malicious.
Well, he gets the girl who betrayed Naofumi goes to him, and she just plays him like a puppet.
100%.
And he buys into it. And we've all seen guys like that. But it's when he gets kicked every time, I have a sense of satisfaction.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of satisfaction when Naofumi goes off on one of the heroes and it's like, you're an idiot. You're with him.
Yeah.
But one of the most epic moments of the entire series is when the rage shield happens.
Yeah.
So Naofumi's got a bunch of different kinds of shields. Each one has a different ability, and they develop as time goes along.
Yeah.
And he unlocks the rage shield during the middle of a battle, I believe. And it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's got incredibly strong moves. He also gets this really cool looking armor. It's like a a dark knight. It's got like these huge spikes, and he's yelling the classic anime Goku level yell. It's a cool scene.
It is. It's
and
very
so,
cool.
like when it happens, you're pumped.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, take him out.
Yeah.
But afterwards, it shows the cost of him using the shield.
Yeah. Yeah. The rage is something that it is productive for him, but it does have a very high price.
Yeah.
And I think that really for us, it makes us think about what that is in our life. Because men, when we get in that rage mode, we can do a lot, but is it always good?
Right.
And that's the big issue we see with Naofumi, we see with the other people. We see that the rage shield does help him in some situations, but there's always a high price to it.
Exactly.
And I think we can learn from that.
Well, it's a pretty accurate way to portray rage, honestly.
It really is.
Let's break that down, actually.
Okay.
So, first of all, rage can be effective.
It can. Yeah.
Rage can be something like when that adrenaline hits and you just go into that almost crazed state of being full of rage, you can do some damage. In fact, I remember reading in a book that there were Vikings who had what they called a battle frenzy. And they would work themselves up into such a frenzy.
Yeah.
And some people think drugs were involved. But they would work themselves up into such a frenzy to where like they didn't have any armor on. And they were sustaining heavy damage, but they couldn't feel it.
Yeah.
So they would just run into the middle of an enemy area and just tear people up. So a lot of times they would die, but they'd take down like 10, 15, 20 people.
Yeah.
So like that is a rage-fueled person effectively fighting a battle.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we see that today in sports. Sometimes like when I played football and people who play football, you can get into that mode of rage. The only danger is we see it in sports. Sometimes it can be effective, but you can go too far to where you lose control. We've seen the player on the field who starts punching people, who starts going nuts. And you think, what's wrong? Well, that rage has kind of taken over. It helped him in some areas, which it can be. It can be very effective depending on what you want to do. And I think in our life as men, sometimes we just get mad and I'm going to take care of business. And we kind of move into it. And we do get a lot done. But is it always the best way to do it? Is it the healthiest way? Like you said, the Vikings, they killed a lot of people, but then they died. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's a pretty high price to pay. And that's what we forget. Rage is effective in some ways, but it has a very high price.
Right. Rage can motivate hard work.
Yes,
like
it can.
If you've ever gotten around an entrepreneur or a musician who said like, I worked my way to the top to prove insert name here, wrong. I wanted to show my dad or I wanted to show my teacher, or I wanted to show the world. And like, there's just this sense of anger that fueled them to relentlessly work. Like it's effective.
Yeah, it is. And like we see guys who they live their whole life to show the girl in junior high who rejected them, I'm worth something. Or if they had a wife dump them or, have an affair on them, that rage mode gets them to where, okay, I'm going to lose, I'm going to get a six pack. I'm going to, date some young thing. And it's all based out of rage and anger.
Right. And well, another way rage can be effective is you can intimidate people into submission. There's a lot of guys who stay in that zone. They use their rage to intimidate people. Like in the Stormlight archive, there's a certain character whose dad is just like he's a terror to his family because he's using rage. Or on a more lighthearted note, I remember my sister, Katie, in kindergarten, she had this dude who was copycatting her. And he just would not stop. He didn't want to stop. So she threw a chair at him.
I remember that. Oh, and I don't know. As a dad of a daughter, I think it was kindergarten because it was like her first week of school or something. And came home and she got like a blue dot or whatever the bad thing was. And okay, what happened? And she said, Dad, he was copycatting me, so I threw a chair at him. And I mean, as a dad, my daughter threw a chair at a boy. she didn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, baby, don't throw a chair at him. But that's about all I said, because there's that part of me that was like, you go. Those boys copycat you, take them down. Boys are gross.
Yep.
And it was a good moment for me as a dad.
Well, it's like a Naofumi moment where Naofumi goes off and just wrecks somebody, and you're like, you go, Naofumi.
Yeah, you
just
do it.
Tell them how it is.
Yeah, take them out. Show them who's boss.
I mean, it's effective, though, because that boy did not copycat her anymore.
Nope. And it kind of set the tone for all the other guys throughout school when she was there.
Yeah, just be careful.
Yeah, don't mess with Katie.
For real. So rage can be effective.
Yeah,
those were a couple ways that it can. Mm-hmm. However, like we have foreshadowed, rage has a high price.
Yeah.
Something that, as we were kind of discussing this topic, it really struck me is like rage has power, but it only has the power to destroy. Mm-hmm. Nobody has ever gotten full of rage, full of anger, and then gone and created something beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, rage can fuel damage. Mm-hmm. It can fuel destruction.
Yeah.
It can fuel pain. It can fuel intimidation. But you're not going to be angry and then go encourage somebody.
Yeah.
You're not like, oh, I'm mad. I'm going to go just be so kind to my wife and really build up her self-image.
Yeah, yeah.
Rage is a damaging thing.
Yeah, and that's what we have to be careful, because what rage will do is it will take out and almost it kind of blocks those compassionate sides of you, those sides that care about people. You tend to get very self-absorbed, very selfish, very focused on, I have to do this. I have to do it alone. No one else is going to do it for me. And so in that moment, you're like that Viking guy. You're just kind of throwing your axe around and you're hitting everybody. Mm-hmm. The Viking guys, when they went into those battles, their other people didn't go in with them.
Heck no.
Because they knew, they're going to take me out too. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to understand is you're not being creative with your rage. Mm-hmm. Now, it may drive you to do things that could be seen as a success, but a lot of times that success comes at the cost of relationships, of people you care about. Mm-hmm. The guy who's fueled to be number one in whatever ignores his wife, ignores his children. They leave him one day. And then he gets to become CEO, but he's all by himself. Mm-hmm. So his rage has really kind of destroyed all that.
It's consumed it.
Yeah, it's that ability to build your life. You've messed all that up.
It's like a wildfire.
Yeah, that's a good point, because like fire, I use this example for other stuff, but your fire in the fireplace is really cool. Mm-hmm. You can toast marshmallows. You can have the crackling. I mean, I know for me, I love a real fire. Just looking at it, there's something about men. We sit around a fire and we just stare at it. It's one of the coolest things.
Yeah.
But then if the fire is in the middle of your living room on the carpet, that's a bad thing. If it's going up the wall of your bedroom, that's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. You're not just going to sit there and go, wow, look at it burn my wall.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
That looks real nice.
My bed is on fire. I should move. And that's what rage does. It kind of sets everything around us on fire. Yeah. And I think as men, we have to remember that, or it becomes our go-to in so many ways.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most powerful illustrations that Rising of the Shield hero shows. Mm-hmm. Literally, as he uses this rage shield and takes out his enemies, very effective, very powerful, a good weapon. Yeah. But he almost goes into this state where he's not conscious anymore. He goes into a state where he's not seeing what's really going on around him. He's just in the rage mode. And he almost wakes up from this state. Yeah. And he looks around him, and it's his two allies. Mm-hmm. Both of them were kind of grabbing a hold of him to try and bring him out of this rage mode. Yeah. And he looks, and they're both burned. Yeah. Like physically burned with like a curse mark. Yeah. From what he did. Mm-hmm. And it shows this honestly very real life, true, visceral reality. Yeah. Rage has collateral damage.
Yeah, it does.
Rage has collateral damage.
And you see that not only does he help the people who are his allies, but you also, whenever he goes into that zone, what's he start replaying in his head? The bitterness.
That's a good point.
The anger, all the things that fuel the rage. So he kind of forgets the real world around him, the people who really do care for him, the good that he's done, and he's only focused on the negative because it's fueling that rage. Mm-hmm. And I think if we're not careful, we talked about bitterness last episode, but that bitterness will fuel our rage and it blinds us to the good. Like he was hurting his allies, but he didn't even realize it. Mm-hmm. They had to call him out, but they were getting hurt. Like you said, the curse mark. In fact, I think Raftalia, the first time, they had to go and she had to get this special potion and get it wrapped and do all this because he really hurt her bad.
Yeah, exactly. And so rage does not differentiate between friend and foe.
Yeah, that's true.
It hurts the people around us. It hurts those closest to us. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we forget this, but rage hurts us.
Yeah.
Rage is, it isolates us. Mm-hmm. And it traps us in our past.
Yeah.
It makes it to where we fuel bad relationships. It makes us to where we end up, it's almost like this. It's almost like setting yourself on fire in order to hug somebody and watch them burn.
Yeah.
And so who's dying in the process?
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah. Yeah, you're dying in the process. And I think it also, when you're in that zone, you self-isolate, you tend to overblow things. Oh, I'm the only one who's ever gone through this. Everybody hates me. When you're a kid, what's the everybody hates me, nobody likes me, I'm going to go eat worms or some saying like that?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've never heard that.
It was from a long time ago. But we tend to do that as men. We tend to, nobody understands, nobody cares. And that just makes us feel more lonely, more isolated, which brings up more rage. Right. So it kind of feeds itself in that negative way.
Yeah. And what we don't want to communicate, guys, is this idea that, in order to be a successful man, you have to be in just this constant, like Zen state almost, like what Buddhists believe. Like you have to constantly just not be attached to anything.
Yeah,
that's not what we're trying to communicate. We're saying rage, when you are overcome by your anger, your past, that is dangerous. Stay away from that.
Yeah.
We're trying to also offer an alternative, discipline.
Yeah.
Dad, talk to us a little bit about the difference between discipline and rage. What's one area that separates the two?
Well, when you look at rage, most of the time when we have rage and it kind of overcomes us, we're rooting it in pain, in our hurt, in those things that just make us angry. I was done wrong. She walked out on me. She took all my money. My dad hurt me when I was young or abandoned me. So a lot of times our rage comes out of that pain where discipline really gets rooted in our own effort. We're looking at what can I do? Not what's been done to me, but what can I do about it? What should I do? What can I do to grow? When you walk in discipline, it's not that you're all self-sustaining, but you're taking responsibility. Rage pushes that responsibility away. I was hurt. Those people did this to me. Discipline says, what can I do? What am I responsible for? And I think we have to remember that because men are created to be warriors. We're created to fight for our family, to go into life. And sometimes we have to battle for the right thing. But we're to do that with a disciplined spirit because that kind of focuses. It's like building a fire for the purpose of warming a house, cooking, doing things. That's a good use of fire. But setting the house on fire is a bad use of fire.
Yeah.
So rage is that bad use of fire. Discipline is that good use of fire.
No, I agree with that. I think another thing that separates the two is rage is easy.
Yeah.
It's all you have to do for rage is just let it take over.
Yeah.
Somebody hurt you, you're mad, just give in to the anger. And then boom, you've got a rage state.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
You just got to give up. However, discipline is a journey.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because it's the process of learning self-control,
Yeah.
which is learning how to say no to ourselves. And that's the one, that's saying no to harmful things that we want to do.
Yeah.
And two, doing things that are good that we would prefer not to do.
Yeah,
Neither
yeah.
of those are very fun. And then also even learning how to push your limits. Like
Yeah.
I think of in the gym, when you are learning self-discipline, you're channeling this aggression,
Yeah.
but you're using it to make yourself stronger for
Yeah.
a purpose.
Yeah, I agree. And I think with that discipline, you learn how to take those emotions, those feelings, and put them in the right place.
Like channeling it.
Yeah, to channel it the right way. Because the thing about rage that we have to understand is rage thrives in isolation. Rage is that nobody understands me. I'm all by myself. Nobody else has been hurt like me. And the reality is other guys have. Other guys have been hurt just like you. And maybe your situation is unique in some ways, but it's similar to other men around the world who've gone through that. And so rage says, I'm alone. I'm a loner. I have to fight. And sometimes we see that in the movie, the lone warrior. And, some guys, we kind of see that as, I want to be the lone warrior. But the truth is, discipline is something that a lot of times you find only in community. You find as people come alongside you, or you get someone to mentor you. We think of Luke, who had Obi-Wan Kenobi. Somebody came along and helped them. Frodo and Sam had Gandalf. And so we see that. And with Naofumi, we see that he built a community of people who depended on him. And that dependence made him a lot of times do the right thing when he wanted to do the wrong thing. It's just like if you have a gym buddy or you went to CrossFit for a while, talk about what happened in CrossFit with the people.
Yeah, I think CrossFit, like the number one thing that sets it apart and makes it so popular is the community element. Because you have a class at a specific time.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about people, all human beings have routine. So the same people go to the same classes.
Yeah.
And as you all go to the same classes, you learn each other's names, you learn each other's stories, you learn each other's insecurities, the exercises you're good at and the exercises you don't feel so good about, and you push each other. And so you develop almost a family-like atmosphere. And that pushes you, one, to show up. Because if you don't show up, people will notice. It's not like Planet Fitness where like if you don't show up for 3 weeks, nobody's going to know.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, dude, where were you today?
Yeah.
And then two, they're going to push you to go further. You're going to push you to go beyond your limits, beyond what you would normally do on your own and be comfortable with. And I think that community element applies to our discipline as well.
Yeah.
Discipline with others helps us be more consistent and helps us move further, faster, and in a sustainable way.
Yeah, and I think we tend to push ourselves more. When I played football, we would all go in and lift weights together, and you have those guys, come on, you got one more, you got one more, and they're screaming at you, and you're screaming as you do it, but you get one more, where you wouldn't have thought you could have.
No.
But, you do what you said earlier, the Goku screaming, you're like, yeah. And then your testosterone level goes up, you feel like a man. But we have to understand with rage also, rage destroys and hurts.
Yeah.
It just does. There's very little good that comes out of it in the long run. Where discipline is something that protects, it builds, you move things, you improve things. A guy who just grabs a gun and starts shooting is going to shoot everybody. But a guy who can grab the gun and is disciplined with his holding, how he aims, what he's looking at, he's disciplined about, okay, I'm not going to shoot everybody. That's a guy who can protect others, a guy who can protect his family, a guy who can take down someone in a very bad situation. That's a guy who has discipline. Where a guy who just gets mad and starts shooting around, he's going to hit a lot of people and cause a lot of damage.
That's
and our
true.
rage does that. Our rage hurts everybody. It's like a machine gun you're just spraying, where discipline helps you aim, take a shot at only those things that are negative. And so when men bring that discipline into their life, they can focus their energy, their strength, and put it into many different areas and actually see a lot more benefit.
Yeah. No, I think that's good because the truth is life is frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
Life's going to push back at us. We're going to run into unforeseen circumstances that hurt us.
Yeah.
We're going to run into people that are jerks.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
going to happen. Like, if it hasn't up to this point in your life, congratulations.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
good job.
You're
I
a
don't know-
rarity.
I don't know where you're living, but let's
Yeah.
move there. But real life hurts. And it causes this aggression to rise up.
Yeah.
But rather than saying, oh, that aggression is evil, that force of wanting to enact a better future
Yeah.
is evil, it's saying, well, let's channel that and use it for good rather than letting it turn into a pity party, overcome me, and I'm going to take everyone down with me
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
You have when life hits you, you have a choice. You can go on the path of rage
Yeah.
or you can go on the path of discipline.
Yeah.
So
And a lot of times with that, we have to be careful that our rage isn't fueled by our frustration.
which it usually always is.
Yeah. We're frustrated, like, I don't know how to have a hard conversation with my wife, so I'm just going to yell. So we don't have to really communicate. Instead of sitting by and disciplining myself to listen well, to think logically, to think emotionally, to do all that, that takes a lot of work.
It does.
Where if I just yell and scream, people leave me alone. And that's where frustration, we have to be careful that we're not allowing our frustration to control us in that.
Yeah, well, that's a good illustration because if you just yell at your wife, will that relationship get better?
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
But if you do the hard work of you communicate how you feel.
Yeah.
And you can even be firm with your
Yep.
communication. Say,
Yeah.
hey, I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
I do not think that's right. And that she can get mad and you can have the back and forth of
Yeah.
an uncomfortable conversation. But will that strengthen the relationship in the long term?
Yeah.
Yes. And so it's the same thing. I mean, we can look at Naofumi's life and see that discipline is a positive, productive power source.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
when Naofumi gets the rage shield, he hurts everybody.
Yeah.
But when he chooses discipline, he's frustrated with where he's at,
Yeah.
but he uses it to, hey, the kingdom's not giving me the money I deserve, so I'm going to go build a business so I can
Yep.
get my own income
Yeah.
stream.
Yeah.
Hey, these monsters are attacking my friends, so I'm going to step in and stop them.
Yeah.
Being able to defend your friends from social pressures, all of those things have to do with discipline.
Yeah.
And so whenever he is in that mode, he's a true hero.
Yeah. And that's what we are as men, like to our family, to our jobs, to our friends. When we can discipline our strength and even sometimes our anger and aim it in the right direction, that's when we can make positive change, a positive difference, instead of just leaving a lot of collateral damage everywhere you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk, how do we go from rage to discipline?
Yeah.
Because we don't have too much time left on the show.
Yeah,
We need to hit
yeah.
these pretty quick. One, you got to deal with the roots of your past. If there are things in your past that are making rage a constant for you, that will destroy your life unless you deal with it. It'll be
Yeah.
hard, but you got to.
Well, Naofumi, every time he went into Rage Shield, he thought of the bitterness and pain. And in our life, if every time something comes up, it brings back something from the past, then you probably need to deal with that thing or the roots are still going to be there.
Absolutely. Two, building a community. Naofumi did, well, really, he didn't want to build a community, but he didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And that community saved his butt.
Oh, my goodness.
'Cause it's-
Time and time again.
That's what brought him out of the rage mode where he
Yeah.
was destroying himself.
Yeah.
That's what motivated him to make correct decisions. It's the same case in our life. We
Yeah.
have to have community. Even though you don't literally have to have it to survive, you do have to have it if you want to be successful and thrive.
I think we know that community takes work. It's not always convenient. But in the end, when people have a group of people they're connected with, they just enjoy life more.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And no, I think that's right. Doing the right thing.
Well, to me, with Naofumi, his community was built by him doing the right thing.
That's a good point.
When he got Raftalia, he gave her food because she was a slave and she was treated very roughly. She was sick. He gave her medicine. He taught her how to fight. He helped her overcome her past. He helped her overcome her fears. And the interesting thing is, he didn't do that for the purpose of her becoming part of his community. He just did it because he was doing the right thing.
It was the right thing. Yeah.
In the end, she turned around and helped him
Absolutely.
deal with his past. And that's where sometimes if you're helping other men and you think, why am I doing all this for them? You never know. Those men will become part of your community and they can help you. They can become part of your band of brothers who help you go to new places in your life. And that's what we see in Naofumi. He did the right thing, and that came back to him through the people he helped.
I think that's true. I think the final thing would be, I guess you could say, protecting yourself, or self-care is kind of a cringy title.
Yeah.
But it's that whole maintenance mode. Like if you don't do maintenance on a car, it's going to break down and start doing things that aren't good.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in our lives. Like if you don't know how to set boundaries in relationships, people are going to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
But you can use discipline to set boundaries. And by setting boundaries, you can then have the long-term strength to grow your discipline. It's like it feeds each other.
Yeah, and I like the way you said that. Protecting yourself is better than, when you say self-care, that just gets kind of out there. People, it's so, but when you protect yourself, you're saying, I have power, but I want to use my power in a good way and in the right place. I don't want to waste it on things that aren't good for me or others. I'm going to take care of myself so I maintain my power. If guys aren't getting the right sleep, if they're not eating well, if they're not doing this, it's easier to then lose your control in other areas, to lose your discipline in other areas. But if you start bringing that discipline into one area, it's easier to move it into the other areas of your life.
Okay, guys. So walking into the future, ultimately you have two decisions when you face the frustrations of life. You can either let rage control you and destroy you and the other people in your life, or you can choose to take that frustration and channel it into discipline. It can give you grit, and you can use it to face the things you need to in your life, and you can also use it to be able to bring life to the people around you. It can serve as a strength when we choose discipline, and we have to do that.
Yeah, and we have to remember, Naofumi wasn't perfect in his journey.
That's true.
He didn't always do the right thing, but he started doing more of the right thing time and time again. And it's like that for us. You're going to start picking discipline into different areas of your life. You won't always be perfect, but then it'll become a habit. And when you apply discipline, we often tell men, you apply discipline to one area, it's easier to bring it into those other areas of your life.
That's true.
So don't expect perfection right out of the gate. What you want to do is say, okay, what's that one area I can begin to bring discipline to? Whatever it is, start putting it there, and you'll find that it's easier to bring discipline to other areas of your life. That's what Naofumi did, and that's how he grew as the shield hero and got better.
Absolutely. And so that choice is before us every day. And if you do mess up, don't give up. Like you said, none of us are perfect. But as we make those decisions, just like Naofumi, we can begin a long-term transition that makes it better for us and all the people in our lives.
Yeah.
So work on that, think about that, implement that, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man Podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.